I think it's safe to say that after the conclusion of Arcane Season 2, Ekko, the boy savior, is a fan favorite. This is a character that people just absolutely adore. This is a character who people believe has the best ending in all of Arcane. I've even met people who aren't too happy with Season 2 of Arcane that say they really like Ekko and where his character concludes. And I couldn't disagree more. Ekko, like every other character in Season 2 of Arcane, is dumbed down compared to his Season 1 counterpart. Not only that, but it seems like the writers and producers of Arcane Season 2 forgot who Ekko was at his core to begin with. So first I'm going to quickly go over Ekko in Season 1, what matters to him and his importance in the story. When we're introduced to Ekko after the time skip, he seems to be one of the only people in all of Arcane who is acting purely altruistically. I don't think it's much of a stretch to say he is probably the most morally sound character. This is a young man who is filling shoes that he was not ready to fill. At a very young age he loses his father figure, 2 of his best friends are brutally murdered, one of them disappears for nearly a decade, who is also assumed dead, and the friend that he is closest with, Powder, not only plays a role in killing his 3 other friends, but then joins the side of the man who put this all together and directly killed Ekko's father. Now, one major theme throughout Arcane is how different people handle trauma. Violet is more prone to rage. She likes to use her fists to solve her problems. Powder/Jinx have a plethora of mental health issues, ranging from anxiety to schizophrenia and everything else in between. And Milo, who not enough people talk about, has a profound sense of insecurity. But what makes Ekko such an interesting character in this gigantic mess is even though he suffers from a lot of the same issues that these other characters suffer from, he comes out the other side a better person. A man who is absolutely dedicated to his community. Someone who at all times is just trying to create a better future for the next generation. He's trying to give the future children of Zaun the life that he never had. However, he faces a really difficult challenge. He needs to stop Jinx and Silco, and he's not really sure how to do it. And unfortunately, he understands that words are not going to be able to fix everything. He's going to have to use some form of force. But what I really love so much about his decision is he doesn't really seem to be trying to kill any of Silco's goons. Maybe trying to immobilize them or knock them unconscious, but he's not actually shooting to kill. So in a very unique and beautiful way, he's even giving his enemies a second chance to be better people. And what makes this all the more better is he's not someone who's really trying to be a savior. At his core, in many ways, he's still just the little kid who wants to hang out with his friends. But it's these connections that he had and lost that lead him to be a better person. And because of this, he steps up, filling a void that was desperately needed of help in Zaun, beautifully symbolized by the tree that is in the center of his base. And not only that, even though he is jaded towards Piltover, he's willing to offer them a hand as well, being more than willing to reason with them. And that is why Ekko having a budding relationship with Heimerdinger works so well. It is someone from Zaun and someone from Piltover who are finally coming together in a very productive and healthy manner. And it's not something that happens out of force, it's something that happens out of kindness. Not only that, but Ekko's scene on the bridge is my favorite scene in all of Arcane. Ekko vs Jinx is one of the single most impressive moments that I have ever seen in fiction. Aside from just being super badass and really hype, you know everything you need to know about these characters and how they feel about one another in a short 2-minute sequence. That doesn't only provide something that's been built up to for episodes at this point, but also ties the story together in a very tragic and bittersweet moment. So with all that being said, I was really excited to see what they were going to do with this character for Season 2. So you can imagine my shock and disappointment when he's barely in the first 6 episodes, then practically gets his own episode in an alternate universe, in which he acts completely out of character, and then in the final 2 episodes he's just dumbed down to a Jinx love interest. Then, in a very uninteresting, convoluted, and nonsensical moment, he quite literally becomes the boy savior, and then his arc just ends. So let's quickly run through this step by step. For the first 6 episodes, he really doesn't do anything. He barely makes any appearances, and for the most part, he's just doing funny things with his new furry sidekick. He's used as somewhat comedic relief, but then I will say we actually do get an interesting scene in episode 3, where he decides to talk to Jace about what is happening to the tree. Now this might have actually been a really interesting plot point had they remembered to actually pay it off. And as some of you may remember, this tree is actually very important to Ekko. So important, in fact, that this is the last time we hear about it. Then, at the end of episode 3, he is teleported somewhere. He then spends all of Act 2 in the realm of who knows what's going on. And then we get the alternate universe episode, which is many people's favorite in the whole entire show. And this episode is disastrous for the character of Ekko. Firstly, he nearly murders alternate universe Powder immediately, and she's just sort of like, yeah, that's weird, but I guess it's okay. And then he goes on a very typical I'm in the wrong universe arc, where he acts crazy, scribbles stuff, and is trying to get home. And while there are sprinklings of stuff that could have been interesting, such as him looking at the bridge where he punched Powder, or his reunion with his father, it's all cheap. It is all surface level, it is all expected. and it is all boring. So now let's get to the real reason that everyone loves this episode so much, the relationship between our Ekko and some alternate universe powder. Am I the only one that finds it weird that Ekko is walking around in someone else's skin, dating their girlfriend? This whole quote-unquote relationship is just an absolute disaster. Not only is it unethical, it's out of character for Ekko. It has been over 7 years since he had an actual relationship with Powder. Beyond that, this girl that he is talking to is not the same person that his Powder would have become or was. So this thought process of he's getting to fall in love with someone that he would have fallen in love with in his own universe just doesn't work. This is an entirely different person. And this is also someone that he doesn't know. I think it would have been far more realistic for Ekko to really not want anything to do with Powder at first, due to the trauma response of what Jinx has put him through for nearly a decade. And instead of having them do this forced kiss just for fan service at the end of their story, I think it would have been much better if Ekko was just okay with them sort of being friends. I just feel that him falling in love with her is a whole load of bull. And not just that, but why is he even entertaining this? Our Ekko from Season 1 has things to do, places to be, and people to save. This is not the time or the place for wishy-washy relationship shenanigans. And then at the end of this episode, Heimerdinger dies. And Ekko is the only one who knows about this, and I want you to keep this in mind for later. So then, when Ekko returns to our universe, he somehow teleports straight to Jinx. Apparently he now cares far more about her, the person that he no longer knows and has been actively killing his loved ones. You would think that Ekko's first move in returning to his home universe would possibly be checking on his home that is the most important thing to him in Season 1. But no, instead we're going to settle for cheap fan service. And what makes this even better is it happens off screen. Because I guess why would they show a conversation that just doesn't make any fundamental sense? So then, not only does he turn Jinx to being a good guy, he then befriends her like nothing has changed from when they were children. Drawing on each other and making crop tops, cutting each other's hair. Earth to the writers of Arcane, this is not the same Powder from the alternate universe. This is a relationship that cannot work, too much has changed. But hey, it looks cool and it's good for the fans, so we're gonna keep it. And then, somehow, he just saves the world? Oh my god, this was just so dumb. Ekko, who was once a grounded character, straight up defies the laws of physics that have been set in the Arcane world, beats this massive army of robots who we've seen are extremely powerful, and saves the world. Hooray. Because this is exactly what I thought Season 1 of Arcane was leading to. Ekko saving the world. All the nuance of his character, all the conflict, all the complications, you know, all of the things that actually made the character really interesting. Nope, he just saves the world because he's the boy savior, now everyone clap and say yay. But now I actually want to talk about what we gain from the final scene with Ekko. Him sitting in the same spot that he sat with alternate universe Powder, reminiscing over the relationship that they could have had. Does Ekko mention or remember the certain scientist fuzzball that saves Ekko by sacrificing himself? Does Ekko remember or reminisce the character that he had a long relationship with throughout Season 1 and Season 2 that sacrificed himself to save Ekko? Nope. No mention of him. Do we get a beautiful scene where he checks on his home, interacts with his loved ones, makes sure they're okay? No, it's not like it was the most important part of his character all throughout Season 1. Do we get any sort of proper conclusion between him and Violet, another amazing relationship built up throughout Season 1? No, we do not. Anything and everything that made Ekko an interesting character in Season 1 is gone, and it has been replaced with shipping and fan service. And that is how the writers of Arcane Season 2 killed and replaced the original boy savior with a false one.